I think based on feedback we've had in the past and my own experience, the most important thing is to know that we're not alone and that there is a magnificent supportive community that we can become part of and network with that will help us get through whatever trials and tribulations there are.
Welcome to Heart with Anna. I am Anna Jaworski and the host of your program. We are in our 14th season and we're very happy you are here with us today. I'm very excited about today's show to feature a returning guest and dear friend, Mary Kay Klein. Today's show is entitled Care Hope Discover 2019 Conference. Mary Kay Klein is married to Ted Klein and is the mother of 3 children, John, Kevin, and Karen, and the grandmother of 3 grandchildren. Karen was born with a congenital heart defect, which spurred Mary Kay and Ted on to becoming strong advocates in the congenital heart defect community. Karen, her family, and some close friends were founders of the Adult Congenital Heart Association. Since Karen's passing, Mary Kay and Ted have worked tirelessly to continue Karen's work advocating for families with congenital heart defects. One of the ways they have done so is with a conference called Care Hope Discover. And that's a conference for everyone in the congenital heart defect community. It's held outside Boston, Massachusetts, and I'm so happy to welcome my friend, Mary Kay Klein. Welcome to Heart with Anna, Mary Kay.
I'm so glad to be back here with you. Thank you for having me, and I'm excited about this conference and excited to tell you about it.
I know, me too. And what really makes me excited, Mary Kay, is that I get to go.
I'm glad.
I know. I love this conference. So let's start by talking about this conference. I think I've been to 4 of the conferences, but I know that there have been more than that. How many conferences have there been?
Well, we started doing local conferences in 2007, not too long after Karen died. And we've had different types of conferences. We've had some all-day conferences for adults living with congenital heart defects and their families. We've had some evening conferences that have focused on special topics like how to deal with living with a heart defect or nutrition or exercise or spiritual questions that come up for people living with CHDs. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, Anna Mary Geist came to me. She's the head of It's My Heart New England, and she suggested that we work together. She had come to a couple of programs for adults, and she wanted to work together on an all-day conference that would be for families with small children, for teenagers, for adults, and for caregivers. So the last 3 conferences I've worked on have been of that form for everybody, and it's been wonderful to bring everybody in the heart defect community together. Especially, I think it's been helpful for parents to meet adults who've lived with heart defects for many years, have survived, have worked out their coping strategies, and are doing well.
Oh, I agree. And I guess I've been to the last 3 conferences, but I think I went to one of the first ones that you had as well. I think I went to the very first one you had after Karen passed.
I believe you did, yeah.
I've seen it changing over the years, which is really cool. You've really worked to try and stay up on what needs our heart community has. And I love how you're bringing all of these different organizations together, just like the It's My Heart organization. What other organizations are involved in this year's conference?
Well, we have 6 sponsoring organizations as of now, and we may have more. It's My Heart New England, I already mentioned. Adults Living with Congenital Heart Defects of Massachusetts were the 2 groups who started it, but also the local branch of the Children's Heart Foundation, the Ethan Lindbergh Foundation, Mended Little Hearts of Boston, and ACHA, the Adult Congenital Heart Association. So it's wonderful to have all these people come together and work together and get to know each other because we are just one big family and one big community.
Absolutely. There's so much more strength when we all work together.
I agree. And I think that's a theme that carries through in different ways throughout the conference. I know we're going to be talking in a few minutes about some of the speakers and some of the topics, but one of the things that we emphasize is that we're not just talking about something physical that might require surgery or medication or whatever. We're talking about mind, body, and spirit together, because we're whole human beings, and there are different parts of the program that emphasize that. We also have speakers from many different hospitals and different places who, again, are working together to help us put on this program for everyone in the community. I really like that aspect of working together.
Oh, I know. It's awesome because you have people from Boston Children's, you have people from Brigham and Women's.
There used to be two hospitals, Women's flying in and the Brigham, yeah.
And then I seem to recall something that was really unusual to me, a floating hospital.
The Tufts Floating Hospital. Yeah. We do have a speaker from there.
Yeah.
I think at one time it was actually on a ship.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and we also have a speaker from Mass General.
Right.
And a speaker from Boston University's Child Life and Family Centered Care Center.
See, I just think this is fabulous. Why did you start this conference, and what's the major goal of the conference, Mary Kay?
The major goal of the conference, first of all, is to assure people that they're not alone. It's difficult living with a CHD or being a parent or a family member or friend or spouse of someone with a CHD. And I think, first of all, that's important. Secondly, I think information is important. Understanding where CHD care is going, understanding better how to participate in one's own care, what individuals can do to make things better for themselves.
Right.
I think all of those things are very important goals for the conference.
Yeah, I think so too. And I also like how there are networking opportunities, because when you attend this conference in person, you get a chance to sit at a table with somebody else, and you never know, that person may be dealing with the same heart defect or the same kinds of complications from a heart defect.
Yeah, and we have found that definitely to be true. People have left and they've written glowing evaluations saying how much it meant to them to talk to the people they've met and to learn from them and to share with them some of the experiences that they've had.
Yes, and I also love the fact that you have activities for the children, so they're not stuck there with their parents if they don't want to be. They have a safe place where they can go play, and they can interact with one another. The siblings can be interacting as well, and the parents can feel safe knowing that the children are in a safe place doing fun activities while they can focus on what's new in pediatric cardiology or how different people have experienced growing up with a congenital heart defect or whatever the topic is that's being discussed.
That's true, that we have a lovely place for the children to be. It's close to where the parents are, so they can go back and forth and see them. And they have their own activities and their own food, and we don't charge extra for the babysitting. And I think based on feedback we've had in the past and my own experience, the most important thing is to know that we're not alone and that there is a magnificent supportive community that we can become part of and network with that will help us get through whatever trials and tribulations there are. That's important too, because for some families that could be a burden.
Yes, that really could.
Texas Heart Institute were offering us a mechanical heart, and he said, no, Dad, I've had enough. Give it to someone who's worthy.
My father promised me a golden dress to twirl in. He held my hand and asked me where I wanted to go.
Whatever strife or conflict that we experienced in our long career together was always healed by humor.
Heart to Heart with Michael. Please join us every Thursday at noon Eastern as we talk with people from around the world who have experienced those most difficult moments.
Tonight Forever by the Baby Blue Sound Collective. I think what I love so much about this CD is that some of the songs were inspired by the patients.
Many listeners will understand many of the different songs and what they've been inspired by. Our new album will be available on iTunes, Amazon.com, Spotify.
I love the fact that the proceeds from this CD are actually going to help those with congenital heart defects.
Enjoy the music.
Home Tonight Forever.
You are listening to Heart with Anna. If you have a question or comment that you would like addressed on our show, please send an email to Anna Jaworski at anna@hearttoheartwithanna.com. That's anna@hearttoheartwithanna.com. Now, back to Heart with Anna.
Mary Kay, before the break, we were learning about the Care Hope Discover 2019 conference. And in this segment, I want us to start by, first of all, saying where the conference will be and how people can register.
Yes, the conference is at the Hilton Garden Inn, a hotel in Waltham, Massachusetts. Waltham is right outside Boston, and it's close to a lot of the big highways, which makes it easy access for a lot of people. It also means free parking, which is wonderful.
Yes, that is wonderful.
It's on Saturday, October 26th. Registration starts at 8 o'clock. The program goes from 9 to 4:30. And if people want to stay around and have some hors d'oeuvres and talk later, that's also very much a possibility. The way to register is to go to the website, which is www.carehopediscover, all one word, carehopediscover.com. The registration fee until October 15th will be $60. After October 15th, it goes up to $75. And for that, you get the all-day program, lunch, coffee breaks, and babysitting for the children if you need that. So again, the website is www.carehopediscover, all one word, .com.
Perfect. Okay. Well, what can healthcare professionals, families, and adults living with congenital heart defects expect from this conference, Mary Kay?
Well, why don't I tell you a little bit about some of the speakers and what they're going to be talking about? I think that would be helpful. We have two speakers for our opening session, Dr. Emani from Boston Children's, and he's going to talk about recent trends and changes in heart defect care and also shared decision-making. And he is going to be followed by Dr. Bhatt from Mass General, who is going to respond to that. And I think she may also be talking some about medications and what they're used for and how they help. Then after that, we're going to have two sets of breakout sessions. The first one, there are two options. One is Dr. Doug Ma from Children's Hospital, who is a specialist in electrophysiology. In the past, the sessions on electrophysiology have been very popular. And then the other alternative is a dialogue between Dr. Michael Landzberg of Children's and the Brigham and Dr. Paul Thayer from Boston University. He's the one who's the program director for the Child Life and Family-Centered Care. And they're going to talk about palliative care from the perspective of a physician. And I believe Paul Thayer is an educator, and he also has some theological training. And then after lunch, there are going to be two more breakout sessions, and you choose one. One is Fred Wu, who is going to talk about issues that can come up post-Fontan, particularly liver issues. And the other alternative is Mark Zilberman from Tufts, who deals with non-invasive ways to diagnose different aspects of congenital heart disease. He does a lot of work with echocardiology. Mm-hmm. So those are the speakers. We also have some panels and roundtables.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that a little bit more in the show. But for right now, I just want to focus on, that sounds like a really full agenda, and I'm really glad that I'm bringing my husband this year because I want to go listen to every single one of those speakers, and I can't if you're having concurrent sessions. So I'm going to have to divide and conquer with my husband. But if I'm not mistaken, all of the speakers in the morning are speakers who have been to your conference before, and they're all amazing. I remember listening to Dr. Emani and Dr. Bhatt. They're fabulous.
I think our new one is Doug Ma, because the person who had been speaking about electrophysiology, I think, is on leave or studying or somehow not available. But most of them have been with us before.
Yeah, and they're all excellent speakers. So, friends, you're not going to want to miss this conference. If you live anywhere near the Boston area, it's in Waltham.
And it's in a hotel, so it's possible to get a hotel room.
Now, is there a discounted rate for rooms in that hotel room if you're part of the conference?
There is. I don't know when that expires. That's something you'd have to check on the website. But yes, check the website for that. There is a group rate for the conference.
Okay, great. So you mentioned earlier how the children have their own special place to be so that mom and dad can focus on the speakers and not have to worry about the little ones. Can you tell me some of the fun activities that the little ones will have?
They usually bring a variety of things. I mean, there are videotapes and things for the kids who might want to watch them. For younger kids, there are things like blocks and toys and those kinds of things. We are thinking about maybe having a couple of speakers go in and spend a little time with the children, but we're going to wait and see who registers, what their ages are, what their interests are.
Sure. Because
in the past we have seen quite a variety of interests and ages. So we want to really focus on having something for everybody.
Right. If I'm not mistaken, in the past you had somebody who did face painting and they did bubbles. You think they might be doing that again this time?
Yeah. I don't know for sure, but I think activities like that are being planned, put it that way.
Those are popular kinds of activities. Are we going to have the ice cream social again this year?
I believe so, in the afternoon, yes.
That's always a lot of fun. And that's when the kids join the parents. We all get together. We all have ice cream together. It's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Ice cream is always good.
Now, what about the teens, Mary Kay? Is there anything special that y'all are doing for the teens?
Not specifically. We have not had a lot of teens at these conferences. However, we are, as I mentioned before, going to have some panels and some other things in addition to the speakers. One of the panels is going to be parents whose children are going through the transition from pediatric care to adult care. And they're going to talk about some of the trials and tribulations and joys and successes in that area. And that's, I think, a pretty crucial one, because a lot of teenagers get to a point where they don't want to deal with it anymore.
Yes.
They think they're fixed. They want to move on. And I think that's a very important topic. The other panel we're going to have is adults who are going to talk about how they have coped, how they have lived with a CHD, and what strategies they've used, and what their difficulties, obviously, but they also all talk about the positives, what they've learned.
That's one of my favorite parts of your conference. Every year you do that. Every year there's a wonderful blend of men and women who sit on the panel and talk to us about what it was like to grow up. And they're different ages, so we could look back several decades with some of them, and some of them are a little bit younger. I love that. To me, that's definitely one of the best parts of the conference.
Yeah, I think so too.
Hi, my name is Jamie Alcroft, and I just published my new book, The Tin Man Diaries. It's an amazing story of my sudden change of heart as I went through a heart and liver transplant. I can think of no better way to read The Tin Man Diaries than to cuddle up in your favorite Hearts Unite the Globe sweatshirt and your favorite hot beverage, of course, in your Hearts Unite the Globe mug, both of which are available at the Hug Podcast Network online store, or visit heartsunitetheglobe.org.
Heart to Heart with Anna is a presentation of Hearts Unite the Globe and is part of the Hug Podcast Network. Hearts Unite the Globe is a non-profit organization devoted to providing resources to the congenital heart defect community to uplift, empower, and enrich the lives of our community members. If you would like access to free resources pertaining to the CHD community, please visit our website at www.congenitalheartdefects.com for information about CHD, the hospitals that treat children with CHD, summer camps for CHD survivors, and much, much more.
Anna Jaworski has written several books to empower the congenital heart defect, or CHD, community. These books can be found at Amazon.com or at her website, www.babyheartspress.com. Her bestseller is The Heart of a Mother, an anthology of stories written by women for women in the CHD community. Anna's other books, My Brother Needs an Operation, The Heart of a Father, and Hypoplastic Left Heart Syndrome, a handbook for parents, will help you understand that you are not alone. Visit babyheartspress.com to find out more.
Before the break, we were talking about the Care Hope Discover 2019 conference, and it sounds so fabulous, Mary Kay. We already talked about some of the speakers. We already talked about some of the topics and how there's even a special room for children. Babysitting is free, and that there will be some panel discussions, which is great, but I know there's even more than that. But before we get to what else is still involved, let's remind our listeners how they can register for the conference.
Yes, to register for the conference, go to www.carehopediscover, all one word, .com. And you should be able to find everything there, the program, registration, etc., and information about the hotel and how to get there, everything that you would need to know.
That's great. Okay, friends, you don't want to miss this conference. One of the things that I like about it is it's not humongous. There aren't 2,000 people there. There's 100 to 200 people there. So it's small enough that we all get to know each other, but it's big enough that there's a variety of people there. You're always meeting new people. Right, Mary Kay?
That sounds just about right. Yes, it's not huge, which I'm glad for. And they're mostly people from New England who come, not just from Massachusetts, but from around New England, so that the contacts and the friendships and the networking can continue after the conference. It doesn't end when the conference is over. So it's a nice size, relaxed, friendly group.
Yes.
Although we're dealing with some difficult topics, obviously, but great atmosphere. I mean, I really am looking forward to it.
It's very relaxed. That's what I like. Once upon a time, when this conference was first started, it was called Mind, Body, Spirit. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, It was called Mind, Body, Spirit. And the conference topics focused on one of those three areas. And I think that you've kept that philosophy of looking at the whole person in a Gestalt manner.
Yes, looking at the whole person is very important because it's not just a medical issue or an issue about physical problems, changes, interventions, or whatever. Each person in the CHD community is a whole person, whether they're the person living with the CHD or a family member or a friend or a caregiver. All of us are whole people, and we've really tried to keep that focus on the whole person.
Right. That's why I enjoyed listening to Paul Thayer before. I thought that he brought a very unique perspective to the conference. And I remember in some of the other conferences that I've attended that there's been almost like a Zen-like session where you go and you could just get in touch with your emotions. And it's about relationships that you're building across the community.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And there are a couple of other networking opportunities that we haven't mentioned yet.
Okay.
One is that there are going to be tables around the lobby and people representing different organizations who can give you some of their literature, tell you what they do, and would be really happy to talk with you. And then during the lunch hour, we're going to have some roundtable discussions that you can choose from, some by organizations and some just by individuals who have things they want to share. And if you'd rather just have lunch and relax, there'll be tables for that too.
Right.
But the networking opportunities, very important, I think.
They really are, and I'm excited that you've invited my husband and me to take part in that. So I will be having a table to talk with anybody who wants to write for the book that I'm putting together in 2020 that is The Heart of a Heart Warrior. And Mary Kay knows about the very first book that came out in my The Heart of series because Mary Kay wrote for The Heart of a Mother. Her husband Ted wrote for The Heart of a Father. And so we will be looking for people at this conference who are interested in writing for The Heart of a Heart Warrior. I think having a place like this conference to go to actually network and meet people is just priceless for me. My husband is a nurse anesthetist. He will also be running one of the tables, and he'll be there to talk to people about how to be advocates in the medical setting from a dad's perspective who is a nurse and what it's like when you're on the other side. Because I think we have different experiences with that. And I know a lot of people in our community deal with anxiety and PTSD when it comes to even just going for their flu shot. And so hopefully Frank will give them some pointers on what they can do when they have these doctor's appointments so that they can have a successful meeting without worrying about being too stressed out. That's what I'm hoping he'll talk about. We'll see, because he's his own person, but this is what I'm going to suggest that he do.
I think that would be very valuable.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of people who would be interested in hearing what he has to say on that. So
yeah.
I hope he does.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, that's what I'm going to recommend to him because I see so many people who get stressed. And I know from my own experience, just worrying about that other shoe falling when you're in the doctor's office, you kind of ramp yourself up before you go into the doctor's office, and it's not always pleasant. Even though we love the cardiologists and we love their nurses and we're grateful for what they've done, I think it's still stressful when we have to go into a medical setting. Don't you, Mary Kay?
I agree with that. You never know what's going to happen or what kind of news they're going to give you, especially for people who've had difficult experiences in the past. You're right. Even getting a flu shot's a big deal, or a blood test, or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. And as they age, I'm seeing with my friends who are getting older, because we're all getting older, that they have new problems because as we age, we all experience our body not always doing what we wanted to do, but for our heart warriors, there are extra considerations.
That's right. Yeah, being a heart warrior does not mean you're exempt from every other disease of aging or anything else that somebody else might have to deal with.
Exactly.
Seems unfair, but that's the way it is.
I know, because I've already been through so much, but yeah, that's just the way it is. So we know that life's not fair, but we just have to tackle it with the most positive outlook we can have, and that's what I love about your conference is I feel it's a very positive conference, and it's all about all of us working together to help one another make the most out of the life that we do have. So, Mary Kay, tell me what you think is the most important lesson that you want your participants to take away from your conference.
I think based on feedback we've had in the past and my own experience, the most important thing is to know that we're not alone and that there is a magnificent supportive community that we can become part of and network with that will help us get through whatever trials and tribulations there are.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's a really important lesson, and knowing that you're not alone. Like you said, the whole purpose for starting the conference, and that's the whole purpose I have with this podcast, is to help people recognize they are not alone, because there's power in all of us working together and helping one another.
Absolutely, there is.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the program today, Mary Kay, to talk about the Care, Hope, Discover 2019 conference. I'm so excited.
I am too, and I really appreciate the time and the privilege of being with you.
Well, I can't wait to see you again.
Won't be long.
I know. Thanks again for inviting me to have one of those tables, because I'm hoping that some of the people who are already sending me their essays will be there so I can get my picture made with them and we can talk about their essays. But I'm also hoping to meet some new people who want to take part in the book. I think it'll be awesome. Well, that does conclude this episode of Heart to Heart with Anna. Thanks for listening today, my friends. If you enjoyed this program, take a moment, please, and visit our Patreon page. That's www.patreon.com/heart-to-heart. For the price of a pizza, you can support Heart to Heart with Anna for an entire year. So please consider supporting our program. And remember, my friends, you are not
for joining
alone.
us this week. We hope you have been inspired and empowered to become an advocate for the congenital heart defect community. Heart to Heart with Anna, with your host Anna Jaworski, can be heard every Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Time.